when you was on Drink Champs, shout out to that platform, that whole thing went viral. You know what I'm saying? When you shared your tears of pain, that whole thing went viral. So I've been in a couple of interviews and people ask me, "Oh, how do I feel about you crying, Benzino crying?" So I think I said, so they must have heard me say on the platform that I cry every day. I don't know if it's a day that go by where I don't shed a tear. And I said, what type of world are we living in that I don't understand that? We're real warriors. We come from something different. And real warriors have real scars. Real warriors have taken real losses. Real warriors have remorse, and I reflect on things. I reflect on mistakes and things like that. And that brings tears. But that's the shedding, of something off of me. And that also is the cleansing of my soul. And that's from God. That's something that God has given you. I hear these young guys talk, oh, I don't cry, I don't cry. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then them try to make like a joke, like, oh, he cried, he cried. No, is there
No,
anything?
again, and you hit it right on the nose. Um, I got a lot of built up in me. I've been through a lot of trauma.
Absolutely.
And the worst thing to do is to keep it bottled up
Hmm.
because eventually it's gonna come out in a time and place where it's not gonna be good for you one way or the other. Crying helps me. Being vulnerable helps me. Being crying and being vulnerable helps me. It opens up a new light of understanding. Because I was once that guy, that hardened guy that didn't want to show that because other people would take it as weakness. But as you get older and you start to see that you have nothing else more to prove, and that you've done everything there
Absolutely.
is and you bear the scars that show it, crying is the healthiest thing you could do for yourself, for your spirit, for your soul. It's a healthy thing. And I've done interviews before, and I just felt like I'm not a drinker, but I knew if I was to drink, I would open up. So I kind of did that on purpose. Um, you know, when I do drink, I do get emotional, as do other people. But it did open up a valve in me that needed to be opened. I was on Love and Hip Hop. They've seen me cry. There's times where growing up, so many of my guys have gotten killed that I was trying to cry. Even at Huddy's funeral was I couldn't cry. So it's at the funerals I can't cry. But then there are times within me that I know that if I need to cry, I need to cry. And at that moment, that was a moment that I needed to cry. And crying to me made me stronger than I ever was. And it would be a mistake for anybody to think that crying is a weakness. Not just me.
Yes. And that's what I said.
It's made anybody, nobody knows. So, you know, when I look back and I looked at myself and I was like, wow, that was a moment. And I listened to the words I was saying, and though I was slurring them a little bit, the truth was still in the slur. And that's all that counts. That's all
Absolutely.
that counts. Is when I look back at it, I want to make sure I didn't say nothing crazy. And I watched the whole interview a few times. And everything I said was real. And the
Was.
part where I said I want to hug Eminem and want it to be over, that is that part of me that does. You don't realize there are many parts of you, and them parts come up and depending on the mood and depending on the moment, that's what you're going to put out. There are times where I'm like, fuck Eminem, bomb him. But that time I felt like, hey, listen, if we can come together and we can hug it out, I think that'll be powerful. But I I I put it out there, and if nobody doesn't grab it, if the olive branch isn't grabbed, then I got to go back to as Bigga said, the warrior. You know, there's nothing the matter. I don't operate with ego anymore. I just operate with right. There's no gray area anymore for me. It's only right and wrong, and I know the difference. And I have no problem when I'm wrong admitting it to myself first and to God first, and then to whoever else I may have to admit it to. So, you know, I hope the young guys look at it, and I hope the ones that really have good insight and good character young men see it and just learn from it. And I'm sure the older guys, because living with pride and ego will get you killed. You know what I'm saying? Will get you locked up fast in our world. Now, maybe if you're white, you can live with pride and ego. And I notice some white men are arrogant as hell and they live their life like that. And it's accepted. And it's not even accepted as a bad thing. But us, when we do it, it could be misconstrued. And everybody's sensitive and everybody's emotional. Everybody's ready to grab that gun. Ain't nobody doing these anymore. So it have to be life is a thinking man's game. Streets is a thinking man's game. Of course you gotta have muscle, but if you don't have this, you'll fall quick. You'll fall. You could have the most guys, you could be the most ruthless, but if you're not using this in the way that has to be used, that's conducive to get done anything you want done, that muscle that's not gonna last. Eventually, you know what I'm saying, you will get cut down.
I also think when you have reached and survived and experienced this thing we call life, your responses at 25 are going to be very different from your responses at 35. Your insight as you move towards 40 and then getting to that closer to half a century mark, you feel things and if you're not feeling things, that means your evolution has stopped. Something in you has stopped, something in you has died, okay? And you're in trouble spiritually, emotionally, physically, every 360 degrees of arrested development. That's what that is. And when I watched that interview, I heard everything you said. And I understood, which I'm sure millions of us understood. As my husband said, a warrior's scars are deeper than what they see on the outside because
Ooh-wee.
you're not allowed, because you're a warrior, because you're a leader, you're not allowed to wear your emotion at all because you are the leader. People are looking to you for the pillar of strength. You ingest everyone else's shit and you push yours to the side. So when you reach the level of maturity and insight and spiritual growth, where you say, I can't keep swallowing this, this has to come out. It is spiritually enlightening. It is a release. And as you said, don't get it fucked up. Mike Tyson cries all the time.
Man,
And he's gonna knock several motherfuckers out if they try it, right?
Absolutely.
He's so consumed because he's really experiencing life now. He's feeling everything that was suppressed. And when I see Mike cry, I say, oh my gosh, he's waking up. He doesn't want to hide those things anymore because you did it for so long.
so long.
So long. So
You know, for so long, man, and I just got to be Raymond at that moment, and it felt good.
and it felt good.